And welcome to the Community Energy England 2023 AGM. So my name's Helen Seagrave and I'm the interim chair of the Board of Directors. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you'll find this meeting interesting and informative. So the next slide shows us the agenda that we're going to follow today, and the items where we need people to vote on, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for questions and discussions. But first, I'm just going to run through a few of the meeting guidelines for managing us on Zoom during this meeting, and hopefully this will make sure that we get the most and that you get the most out of the AGM. So it'd be really good if everyone could add their names and their organisations to your profile. This is quite important for this meeting so we can see who's voting, because it's one member, one vote. The event will be recorded, so if you don't wish to be part of the recording, please turn your camera off and you won't feature. The Q&A won't be published, so you can still take part in that. Please mute yourself unless you've been invited to speak to help with the sound quality for everyone. Feel free to ask a question in the chat, and when we get to the Q&A, there'll be an opportunity for people to raise their hands and speak if you'd prefer to do it that way. I guess many of you have probably already attended a few AGMs on Zoom, but if you haven't, we've prepared some guidance that the link to which have just been put into the chat. Thank you, Duncan. Just to help you with the voting procedure and things like that. And we've also going to put a link in the chat now to all the papers that you need. They've been on our website since the event was launched, but just in case you haven't seen them, all the AGM papers can be found during that link. Right, so how the voting will work is we'll tell you when a vote's going to take place. We'll be using the Zoom polling for that. So if you're voting on behalf of multiple organisations, i.e. you've got more than one vote to give, you'll have to email Lisa with the details of the organisation you're voting on behalf of and what your vote is, because you'll only be able to vote once via the Zoom poll. And equally, if there's two of you or more sharing the same computer, one of you can vote via the poll and the other person will have to send their vote to Lisa via the chat. And yeah, just a reminder at the bottom there that only CE member organisations are able to vote, and it's one vote per member organisation each time we vote, not one vote for all of the votes. If that makes sense. Right, so I think that's it for all of the guidelines and everything, all the instructions for today. So now I'd like to move on for just doing a bit of an overview and an introduction for Community Energy England. Just in case there's anyone on the calls today who has recently joined us or is not overly familiar with who we are. So we're established in 2014 by a group of community energy practitioners to help connect practitioners and stakeholders across the community energy sector together, and to provide a single unified voice for the sector to government, industry and media. So Community Energy England therefore acts as a representative body for community energy organisations who develop renewable energy efficiency projects, and those who support and work with them as well. We provide a forum and a voice for the experienced community groups and also support new entrants. We're an inclusive organisation working with the wider energy sector, including the commercial and public sector partners and service providers. And as you can see from the slide, our vision is to achieve a thriving community energy sector integrated into a truly powering a fair zero carbon energy system. And underneath that, our mission is to help active community energy organisations implement new projects to innovate, improve and to grow. Our strategic priorities underpin our activities and what we do, and help create a boundary about what we can do, because Community Energy England's a relatively small team. So we're not directly involved with projects, and we're not able to give technical advice, but through our how-to guides and other information collected on the website, there's a lot of information there for people who want to deliver that. But our two main objectives are to make politicians, national and local government officials, network operators and regulators aware of the community energy benefits, needs and opportunities and the obstacles, and to use that to lobby for supportive policy and regulations. And then objective 2 is around providing opportunities and mechanisms for active community energy practitioners in all parts of England to connect, learn and share business models and to help each other overcome obstacles. So our membership network spans the whole country, but we're not large enough to provide one-on-one support for each member, but we do provide a lot of online resources and have a large back catalogue of information, especially on webinars on YouTube. And we've created various means to share news, share offers, funding opportunities and project successes across our network, including our member-only newsletter. And this slide is just a summary of the support that we provide for our members. Each year we also run a range of online and in-person events and host a members-only online forum where practitioners can connect and discuss challenges, problems and opportunities. We also do research into the sector and promote the scale and reach of community energy, supporting members who are working with their communities. So membership is open to any organisation that supports the community energy movement, including groups that are unincorporated, and membership adds weight to our collective voice and means that if you're involved with us, you have the opportunity to direct our work into the areas where you feel that you need help, support and will help with the progression of the movement. And the more members that we've got, the stronger the message that we have, especially when we're talking to people in government. So if you're not already a member, I would really encourage you to join, and we're going to put a link into the chat on how to join. So the next order of business, I believe, is the minutes from the last AGM, which need to be formally agreed at this meeting. Does anyone have any questions on them before we move to the voting about accepting them? Everyone had an opportunity to submit questions in advance and we didn't get anywhere. Didn't get any. So if no one's got any, now we can move to the approval for the 2022 minutes. So this is where we'll get our first poll on our screen, and please vote if you accept the minutes. And everyone's got about a minute to vote, and then I'll move on to the next slide.
Going to end that poll. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Lisa. Right. Now, for the next few slides, I'd just like to take a bit of time to tell you about the people and the structure that makes up Community Energy England and how we operate. So first of all, I'm going to talk about our board. So the board is comprised of voluntary posts. However, in line with our constitution and to enable greater inclusion of opportunities to be involved, our members are offered remuneration. So it's £1,000 for board members and £2,000 for the chair on an annual basis, and that's subject to the finances being sufficiently healthy enough to be able to offer that. Our board members meet on a quarterly basis, and each board member sits on at least one subgroup. And the board strives to be representative of all elements of the community energy sector, from community, public and private bodies. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to introduce each of our board members. So as I've said, my name's Helen Seagrave. As well as being the chair of Community Energy England, I'm also community energy manager at Electricity North West, which is a DNO for the North West of England. Pete Capener is a founding member and he's our deputy chair, and he's also managing director of Bath West Community Energy. Martin Crane is managing director of Carbon Alternatives, and he's also director of Springbok Wood Heat Co-op. He has 20 years experience in renewables and energy efficiency and has joined the board in 2020. Mary Gilly is founder and director of Energy Local. Rachel Hayes is head of networks and development at Regen, which is another membership body that we work closely with. Rachel's also a founding member of Community Energy England and is head of the Impact subgroup. Ollie Pendred is chief executive of Community Energy South, a regional body for community energy organisations which we work closely with, and Ollie has been working in the energy sector for nearly 20 years. Debbie is a founding member of Whitby Esk Energy, and she's our lead on hydro projects. She's also a founding member of Community Energy England and also is a North Yorkshire Rural Commissioner. Alistair Mumford is a committed supporter of the community energy sector and has been a volunteer director for Exeter Community Energy for many years and is currently holding the chair role with that organisation. And Helen Ryder is our treasurer, and she's also a trustee of Hartley Power and gets involved with their green initiatives and other projects that benefit her local area. And as it says on the slide, we also have Afshin, who's been part of the board for a number of years, but she's been on maternity leave for the last year. So in 2019, we introduced a number of board committees to help with the governance of the organisation. So each one of these meets on a quarterly basis in between the boards and does a lot of the business of the board to make sure that we can focus our time in the board meetings on the decisions and the discussions that really matter. As you can see, there are 4 board committees, each of which has a chair, and all members of the board are on at least one committee, and these support the executive team to deliver their functions too. The next slide shows the executive team, which has had many changes over the last year. So Emma's been on maternity leave from February 2022 to March 2023, and during that time both Duncan and Philip acted up as joint CEOs and did a great job. Henry, who was the COP26 Community Energy Coordinator, some of you may have come across, and Flora, our Policy and Advocacy Manager, both left the organisation during the last year, and Shannon, who was part of the team as the Networks and Learning Officer, was also on a 1-year contract and left in February 2022. In addition to that, Lisa has joined the team in September 2022, taking up the role of Memberships and Operations Officer. So you can see the current structure of the team there. I hope most of you have met at least some of the team over the past year or so. However, there is a new member who's just joined this week. Josh Barnes has just joined to work with Duncan on policy and advocacy just this week. So I'm sure you'll all meet him in the fullness of time. So I'm now going to pass over to the team so they can talk about their activity and the impact that had over the last year.
Thanks very much, Helen. Hello, everybody. You may have noticed that 2022 was a year of political and policy turmoil, and meanwhile, the energy crisis worsened. So we made energy efficiency a key focus for the year, both to deliver benefit to our communities and to show government that the sector is proactive and radical. We trained 24 new energy advisors, convened a very active working group, and lobbied the government for funding and for an emergency response. The net zero strategy in October 2021 had failed to contain the promised plan for community energy. We met Greg Hands, the energy minister, as a result of lobbying him at COP26 to urge a national community energy fund. And we campaigned hard for this. Thank you very much if you wrote to your MP at that stage. The minister reported a deluge of letters and recorded a message for our summer conference. But that's obviously not enough. The Rural Community Energy Fund ended without replacement in March 2022, and in June, the Secretary of State declined to provide the national fund. The British Energy Security Strategy contained a promise to enable communities to have onshore wind, which they are now failing to deliver on. And we lobbied successfully for community energy to be excluded from the energy generator levy, the windfall tax on renewables. We built strong links with the Labour and Co-op parties, which ultimately resulted in the recent pledge of 400 million a year support for communities in Labour's local power plan. And we worked closely with the local electricity bill campaign. Thanks again if you wrote to your MP. And the government has deleted the clauses which the Lords inserted in the current energy bill, but we're hopeful of some compensatory offer from the government soon. And finally, in December, we and colleagues met Chris Skidmore MP for his net zero review. He recommended the government turbocharge community energy, which they didn't, but at least the Labour Party was listening. Next slide. Please do read our policy news posts, which contain comment on policy announcements and happenings and information relevant to the sector. The government kept recommending that community energy work with our local authorities to access national growth funds like the Levelling Up Fund and the Shared Prosperity Fund. So we held events to encourage local authorities to collaborate and built a database which is accessible via our funding page to enable members to know about and access these funds. We built a national map connecting community energy projects to MP constituencies, council areas, DNO and net zero hub regions, and we've used this extensively, and so have other stakeholders such as the Conservative Environment Network who support us. We built a community wind potential map, which this is a picture of, not public yet, which enabled us to contact 190 organisations active in or close to areas of good wind potential, and we held an event early in 2023. 21 organisations have expressed ambition to do wind at serious scale once this becomes possible. Our energy efficiency working group has now a paid coordinator and is doing great work on many fronts, including informing our policy and building a CRM for the sector, a contact management system. Our ethical sourcing working group has researched and collated information, which we aim to publish in due course once we can get it more verified and validated. Prepared Community Energy England's statement on the issue and published 2 blogs. Please see our news piece from the 22nd of June if you haven't caught up with that key issue. The HEAT working group is sharing knowledge, case studies and informing policy. We do all this on your behalf, but we couldn't do it without you. So I want to thank you all who did for responding. Well more than 100 people have written to MPs in our recent call out. Cue another deluge on the Secretary of State's desk. Josh Barnes, our new Policy and Advocacy Officer, couldn't join today, but will greatly increase our capacity to engage you and to do our work. He will join our monthly members call on Wednesday, the 19th of July, focused on policy. So maybe meet him then. We'll continue to ask for your support, writing to MPs, providing input information and joining working groups. So we will see you around and about through the rest of 2023. Thanks again.
So now over to me. Now over to me to run you all through some of our key kind of activity and connections, research and resources over the last year. So in 2022, we published our 6th State of the Sector report. You're all probably now familiar with the annual research that we do onto the sector. We are very grateful for the continued cooperation of all of the many members who contribute your data to our research. And we hope you've seen and made use of both the full report and the summary that we published. Those are still available on our website. And we also published another report, which was slightly lower profile, but something I wanted to mention now to make sure you are all aware of it, which is that it was a report that we did doing a bit of research into the reach and impact of community energy organisations on their own members. So kind of looking into our members, which isn't something we normally kind of have access to really. So we worked with Bath and West Community Energy, Energy for All and Repowering London to get them to each do a survey of their own members. We pulled all of that data and aggregated it up, and you can see the results in this report. Statistically, it's really good to see sort of such high numbers in terms of the percentage of people who have been impacted, learned from, changed their behaviour as a result of being connected to a community energy organisation. So some of you may well find that useful as you're doing your own grant applications and other things. I didn't mean to do that. So yeah, State of the Sector and a lot of other research that we've done in the past is available on our website. Duncan mentioned the new national map that we've launched. He started it over on the policy and advocacy side with Flora, but we've expanded that to take in more data as people have given it to us. So thank you very much for organisations who've contributed their data to us since the project's map, the site's map has been launched. It's now been viewed over 50,000 times and as Duncan said, has been used in the political world, but again, we've heard from many people that it's proven useful more broadly in the sector and with other stakeholders. Brilliant. And then continuing on from that, when the energy crisis and energy prices and things became much more of a significant high-profile national issue, we responded in 2022 by working with the sector to support and increase its capacity and impact here. So we used grants that we were very pleased to receive from Power to Change and Westmill Solar Co-op to subsidise and organise energy awareness training provided by the NEA. 24 people from various of our member organisations went through that process, and that helped to give their organisations either brand new or just increased capacity to deliver energy advice services in their communities. We also arranged top-up training on practical aspects of how to actually deliver energy advice services within the communities, arranged by a well-known person in the sector, Alex Hartley, who many of you will know. And we've been building on that to develop those offerings into a pathway that will include other things like CRM systems that Duncan just mentioned, and other mechanisms to monitor impact, and those other practical aspects in terms of insurance and things. So we're continuing on that. And Duncan's already mentioned the funding database that we've launched. So that was added to the popular funding opportunities page, which is on our website. And then we had a lot going on in terms of comms and events in 2022. Again, one of our significant aspects of our work. So our spring series, which we ran early in the year, we tried a new format for that. So we had 3 different online events exploring things like current community energy projects and innovations, working with local authorities, and what's to come and with the future of the sector. The summer conference last year was a really big success for us and was our first in-person event since 2019. It was amazing down in Bristol to see how many people were really enthusiastic to return to connecting with others in the sector in person, and it was really brilliant to just see how that all came together and the buzz that was there when people are all in a room together. We do love that as part of our work. The Energy Fortnight 2022 had a theme of efficiency first, picking up on what was going on in the broader energy system. And again, it was a vibrant 2 weeks of events, launches, engagement on social media, things like that. We are very grateful to all of the members who consistently, year on year, make Community Energy Fortnight so lively. And in the autumn, we hosted a discussion event, again, focused on how community energy organisations can support our communities through the energy crisis, the impact of wider cost of living increases. There's a good little summary of that on YouTube. And that was the timing. That was supposed to be the awards, the 2022 awards. As you all know, we had to postpone that due to some train strikes into January, but when it did happen, it was a brilliant night in London with over 150 people celebrating all of the achievements of our members, and we were really delighted again to host that and have such a kind of joyful event for the sector. We also launched new monthly member calls in 2022. They're just for members, and they proved to be a really popular new fixture. So they're approximately every month. We don't necessarily do exactly 12 in a year, but we have kind of put on a really good program, and we've got a lot organised to come up ahead in the year ahead. So please do have a look at those if you haven't yet. They're particularly member-only spaces, and we have a really wide range of interesting speakers there, and are open to requests for new things you'd like to be talked about in those ones. And on the social media side, which is a key part of our kind of network with the comms in terms of talking about, promoting, spreading information about community energy and between our members, we've had consistently increasing followings on Twitter and LinkedIn, which are our main focus now year on year. So thank you very much for your support and what your organisations do to repost and reshare things from us and help our reach grow and spread. And our funding pages, just for information, our funding pages are always the most viewed page on our website. So that continues to have a lot of views along with the rest of the website, and our practitioner forum on Lumio, which is something that we host as a way for practitioners, explicitly community energy practitioners rather than other stakeholders. It's kept tight there to allow for a free space to talk and discuss things in terms of projects, opportunities, problems, that kind of thing. That continues to be popular. So again, if that's something that you're a practitioner in the sector and you haven't connected up with that, then please do so. And brilliant. Now I'm going to hand over to Lisa to talk about membership.
Philip. Hi everyone. So we are primarily a membership body whose aim is to work for the benefit of our members and connect them together. We are proud to support community members, and the voice of organisations at all stages of growth and development are vital for our representation. However, it is important to note that only a minority of community members are able to support our work for the sector financially through membership fees, and usually this is because they are very small or have just started up. We are working with members to encourage all who are able to support our network and advocacy work financially, and this has been a focus of our work over 2023. This slide shows a breakdown of CEE members at the year end of 2022 and confirms that community members are the vast majority of our members. We do welcome membership from any organisation that supports and promotes the development of community energy in England, directly or indirectly. Membership of CEE shows commitment to the community energy sector and the network that spans across the country. We are inclusive and represent organisations at all stages of development and all activity areas. If you're not currently a member, please send a direct message to me, Lisa West. I'll be happy to start a conversation and give you more information on joining Community Energy England. Next slide, please. We have continued to receive full support from our 7 current principal supporters, 3 of which have funding currently available to support community energy organisations. Community Energy South and OVO both joined us as principal supporters in 2022. Each of our principal members has a page on our website, so you can find out more about them and their support for the community energy sector. So please do take a look. Principal members provide CEE with enhanced levels of support, cooperation and potential collaborations for the benefit of the community energy sector and its growth. They are also able to make a more significant contribution to our activities and the ongoing financial sustainability of our organisation. Thanks, Philip.
So, does anyone have any questions about last year's activities? Sorry, Helen, I've stolen your line there.
That's fine. I couldn't find my unmute button, so thank you for doing that. We've had one question received in advance of the meeting, but if there's any more, yeah, now's your time. But whilst everyone's having a think, I'll read out this question that we got already sent in. So it's from Nigel Lloyd, who's from ACOX Greener CIC. So what can CE do to promote local energy co-ops of producers and consumers below the substation, sharing electricity and therefore reducing the load on the transmission network? What can CE do to increase energy storage and reduce demand peaks, and what is it doing now? I think you might have a response to that question, Philip.
So yeah, I thought this was a good opportunity really just to sort of explain our role and how we represent organisations. I think it's important to note that we don't do the work of community energy. That's what our members do such amazing things in. So in terms of what we do, the question I think maybe slightly misunderstands the role of CE. So I wanted to explain clearly what it is that we do on behalf of our members. So our role is to represent our members and the activities that they are engaging with and seeking to develop and grow. So we represent the sector in various forums irrelevant to the question, such as DNO stakeholder panels. There's the ENA open networks, which is where all of the DNOs are collectively working together to open up and digitize and improve sort of the technological aspects of how the networks function. 2 of our directors are on something called the Elexon P441 modification panel, which is extremely jargony, but ultimately it seeks to enable energy sharing via virtual net metering within a complex site, which is something like a substation area. The current loophole in those regulations is things like the energy local clubs, what they use to operate. So we're very keen to receive input from our members who are engaging with things like demand reduction or flexibility, and we want to receive that input so that we can help represent the needs of the sector more and more effectively. We try hard to respond to member needs when we organise events as well, so we welcome input if there's something like these aspects of the energy system which you're engaging with and you want to do more of, but you're stuck, or you come up against some obstacles, let us know, basically, so that we can find people who can share their expertise to help you get involved in it, or so that we can, again, take your views up to stakeholder representation level, which we do more broadly. So things like energy storage, demand management, if those are of interest in your organisations trying to get involved in them, please let us know, and we can sort of feed that into how we decide what our priorities are for different events and other things over the course of the year.
Thank you, Philip. And there's been a question in the chat about, can local authorities, or do we have many local authority members? And I don't believe we do at the moment, but local authorities are always more than welcome to join as part of the wider stakeholder group that is able to support and work with community energy. And then is there another question that's just popped up? Looks like a long question that is relevant to slightly later in the meeting, so I shall digest that and come back to that if that's okay. So as we've done with questions about last year's activities, I can just tell you that we've approved the minutes from the last year's AGM on that vote, so thank you very much. And now I'll hand over to Philip for the financial update.
So to the event page, so hopefully you've been able to have a browse through those in advance of today, and I think Duncan has just put a link there in the chat if you want to go and have a quick look. I have taken a couple of bits out of them to help explain the financial situation of the organisation. This bit shows the income and the expenditure from 2022 in a comparison to 2021. And just to clarify, it's the turnover line and the other operating income lines, which are the two that need to be added together to see what our income was. And in total, that is slightly lower than 2021. But if you go down to the bottom of the page where it says deficit surplus, you'll see bracket £706, which basically shows we were bang on in terms of a balanced budget for 2022. So we managed to keep our financial situation completely flat over the course of that year. That was, I have to say, quite a good achievement for us, given reduced team capacity and the overall sort of caretaker situation of the organisation through 2022. I think that was a good result financially, and sets us up healthily for the 2023 year, which we're in now. And just to clarify again, for anyone who's not clear on our financial setup, so CEE is a company limited by guarantee, and what that means is that we then have a constitution which is written, and what that does is ensure that we are 100% not-for-profit. So there is no mechanism within the way that CEE has been incorporated for money to be taken out of the organisation. There are no shareholders, there's no dividends or anything like that. So all the surplus funds that we generate remain within the organisation for use in funding future work and supporting the sector. So we're not for profit in that sense, that all of the money that comes in, any surplus that's made in a year, is just used to kind of power us forward for future years. And I put together this slide to give a bit more information about where the money comes from and what we spend it on. I thought that would be informative for you all. So as you can see, most of the income that we bring in came from philanthropic grants and philanthropic and other grants. Membership fees, as you see there, 23% of our income. So just again to put that in perspective in terms of that as a source of our income. We get some money from state of the sector sponsorship from organisations like Helen's and other DNOs, and event sponsorship as well, you can see there. And we do a little bit of consultancy, we get some donations, and we got a bit of money in for the NEA training. So around each year, we kind of hover around the £300,000 mark for our kind of budget. You can see there that most of that goes on staff costs, so employing 6 or 7 people, that's how much that costs. And then we have some direct costs, so things like the events, if we have a venue, and then paying for state of the sector, different suppliers, designers and things for that. We keep all of the other costs for the organisation really low, and we do very well to be very efficient. So you'll see there that it's really a minimal amount that we spend on the other aspects of running an organisation of this size. And we do that and try to be as lean and efficient as possible in order to maximise the use of your membership fees and the other income that we bring in. So it's a deliberate attempt for us to run a lean organisation. And the grant funders that we have, are shown here. We're grateful to all of them for their ongoing support. It takes quite a lot of time and energy from the team to go out and source these grants and work with the organisations to apply for, manage those relationships, and then report them at the end of the year. Many of you, obviously, in the sector will be fully familiar with the challenges of grant funding. So yeah, you can see them listed on there. In particular, just to note the grants from Westmill Solar, which was very gratefully received. They spontaneously offered that to us last year, which we do really appreciate. And MCS Charitable Foundation, that was funding for Shannon's role. So many of you will have come into contact with Shannon last year and sort of seen the impact that she had on developing our network. So we appreciated that one very much. And yeah, so these funders ultimately are necessary for our long-term financial viability, and so that we can balance the kind of impact that we want to have as an organisation and trying to meet the needs of the sector with the limitations of what membership fees can offer and the ability of the sector to fund the representative body. So the balance sheet here is, and again, another excerpt from the annual accounts. So this is just to illustrate how it works in terms of carrying over the funds, the reserves that we have. So achieving the balanced budget in 2022 means that we ended the year in exactly the same position to where we started in terms of reserves. So if you go down to the bottom, you'll see members' funds, and we deliberately use that terminology in the accounts because the money that we have within the organisation belongs to all of our members. And you'll see again that 2021 we ended with 180,000, and that was the same at the end of 2022. So that sets us up for 2023 when Emma's back. We've got a lot going on. She will talk about that later in terms of strategy development and other things. And part of what we'll need to be doing is bringing in new streams of grant funding. However, for the interim, we were successful last year in achieving a couple of new grants. In particular, Esme Fairbairn funding and Power to Change funding ended in 2022, but we brought in a £100,000 grant from Friends Provident Foundation last year and £35,000 from Aurora Trust. Those will go on to fund policy and advocacy work and the development of the energy advice pathway that I was talking about earlier. So those grants will kick in 2023. And that's the finances, so I'll pass over to Helen.
Thank you. There's an opportunity for any questions and before we move on to the voting section to approve the accounts for 2022. Jean.
Yes, thanks. I was just curious, looking at the income and expenditure, why the cost for the accountants went up so much. Last year it was 1,300 and this year it was nearly 7,000. That seemed a big leap.
Yeah, a good spot, Jean. So the reason for that is that just a bit of allocation of the money that we spend. So there's no actual increase in spending there. What happened is that Charlotte, who many of you will know from her long-standing time with the team. So Charlotte left in 2022. Yes, that's right. Charlotte left in 2022. Just before that, we brought in a new bookkeeper. So our bookkeeper, who is called Karen, she works here. So Karen's a freelance bookkeeper. And what that means is then that the money that we spend paying for Karen's work every month doing our bookkeeping goes under the accountants line in the accounts, rather than going under staff costs, which is what Charlotte's salary used to go under when she was doing the bookkeeping for us internally. So it's just a reallocation of that. It's not the accountants themselves have only raised their costs in line with inflation for things like doing the annual accounts. So it's just a moving around of where that's shown in the accounts rather than a big new increase in costs.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Right, then I think we can move on to voting to accept the accounts. And again, it will be open for a minute to give everybody a chance to vote. We'll then move on to the next section and announce the results once Lisa's had a chance to download it, or whatever it is that you do. And then Emma's taking over for the next bit.
Thanks, Helen. I'm going to end that poll now. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's over to Emma.
Hi everyone, thank you. So the next stage of the AGM is a proposal or a motion put to our members to extend our interim chair arrangements. So the next slide really just gives a little bit of the background from last year. To those of you who were at the AGM last year or can remember that far back, Afshin took maternity leave alongside myself early 2022. So she was our chair at the time. So the board collectively selected Helen as our interim chair. Now that required approval by our members, not only because we like to ensure that we're doing everything kind of collaboratively with our members, but also because our articles state that our chair needs to be from a community representative. So we added a bylaw, which was voted on to disapply that article, which is Article 14.1. If any of you want to read our articles and bylaws, to allow that to be disapplied for a year. So just for a year until the next AGM that members would need to revote. So that was passed. And Helen for the last year has been acting as our interim chair. And if you didn't pick up on the early slides, Helen is from Electricity North West, so she counts as a corporate member. And then next slide, please. So this just gives a little bit more rationale really for why we're asking for 1 year's further extension. So Afshin is due to retire by rotation this year at the AGM, and you will have seen that she is not restanding. A further 4 directors are retiring by rotation with only 1 restanding. So that's quite a lot of change and flux at board level. There are no current community directors that have the capacity to take on the chair role at the moment. I've just come back from maternity leave, and as Helen hinted at, there's going to be quite a lot of change at CE over the next 12 months. So we need that extra bit of stability and strong leadership going through this next process. Helen has done an excellent job as well as interim chair. I've made sure that I've gone and checked, and I've asked board members, our team and various members as well. And all the feedback I've had has been very positive. And as I mentioned, really, the extension will allow ensure a degree of stability, but will also allow us sufficient time to identify and appoint a representative from a community member. So to kind of answer Nina's question that was put earlier about do we have the right skills and so on the board. So we are currently relooking at a new strategy and mission for CE, which I'll talk about in more detail later. So really with the 2 extra spaces that we'll have on the board will allow us to co-opt members throughout the year based on what skills we do need, and also really allows us to take the time to work with a community member to kind of get them ready to take on that chair towards the end of next year. No, sorry, early next year before the next AGM. And we'll be putting out a role description for all of our members to have a look at as well later this year for the CEE chair. So next slide, Philip. Oh, and one other thing to mention as well, that Pete Capener will be staying on as our deputy chair, and as many of you know, is community representative and founding member of CE as well, but currently also doesn't have the capacity to step up to take over chair. Back to the next slide. Yeah, so here we are. So before we go to the vote, I'm really keen, if anyone has any questions, any concerns, then please do let me know. You can raise your hand or put it in the chat, and then I'll just give us a few seconds for that before we go to the vote. Okay, can we please go to the vote? Oh, hang on, was there a question there? Whilst people are voting. No, that's for later. That's for a later section. So as previously, we'll just give everyone up to a minute to vote. So yes, no, or abstain. And please do only vote if you are a member.
Okay, thanks, Emma. I'm going to end that poll now.
Thank you. Right, so I'll hand back to Helen. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you very much, everybody. So before...
Are we, sorry, Helen, before we move on, are we announcing the vote now, or are you still...
yeah, that's been approved through that poll. Thank you, Emma.
Brilliant. Thank you very
So
much, everyone.
I'll carry on doing the rest of the meeting then. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And also we've voted to approve the accounts as well. So thank you for that. So yes, now we'll move on to the elections of the directors. So the first job to do is to thank those board members that are standing down. So we've just mentioned them, but I think they deserve another extra special mention. Many of them have been on the board for a very long time. Afshin, Debbie and Rachel in particular were founding board members and have all served for 9 years each. And I know Debbie in particular, but all of them feel that that's probably the right length of time to serve on a board, and now it's time to move on and allow other people to come along and take part and bring in new ideas and new blood to the organisation. Martin is also standing down after 1 term, but that is so he can put some more time into supporting what we do around the HEAT forum, so he'll still be working closely with the organisation. And Ollie is up for is at the end of his term, but as you've just found out, he's restanding. But I'd just like to take a moment to thank them all for their time and the contribution, particularly the ones that are not restanding, because we'll get to carry on working with Ollie. So yeah, thank you very much, and I hope we still get to continue to work with you all in some way. So the next slide, I think, tells you about those of us that are staying. So we've already Pete's already been mentioned. He's our deputy chair, a community member and also a founding member. Mary Gilly from Energy Local, a community member. Alistair from Exeter Community Energy. Helen Ryder from Hartley Power. And me from Electricity North West as a corporate member. So the list of candidates that are standing are 3 people that have put themselves forward this year. And the process is, what we will do is each one of them has got some time to talk through why it is we should vote for them, and then there'll be a vote after each person. 2 of them aren't here at the moment, so I shall read out their personal statements, and one of them will speak for themselves. So are the slides moving on, or am I just carrying on as we? So yeah, these are the 3 people that are standing to be voted on. There's space for them all. So when we get to each vote, it's just yes or no. Do you think they would make a good board member for us? Syed's not able to join us. Neither is Ollie. So I will read their statements. Hopefully Kate's here as planned and she will speak for herself. So if everybody is clear on what's going on, we can move on and I'll read out Syed's personal statement. I think that's the instructions there. Brilliant. So it's written in the first person, so I'll read this in the first person on behalf of Syed. I'm co-founder of Community Energy London, and I've been its chair since its formation in 2017. I've actively campaigned for the benefits of community energy and the work undertaken by community energy groups to be better recognised, valued and supported across the city. If elected as a board member for Community Energy England, I hope to be able to help CE replicate some of the success we have seen in London in key areas such as greater collaboration and support by local authorities to the sector through the introduction of specific policies to support community energy within council climate emergency action plans. With a general election expected within the next 18 months, raising the profile of community energy to MPs, especially where there are groups and projects active within their constituency. Increasing the recognition of community energy to the public to help drive both direct and indirect support, from volunteering with groups to investing in projects to lobbying their local councillor. Ensuring that the role of community energy is recognised by government and included as a core element of future energy efficiency retrofit and fuel poverty alleviation funding programmes. Right, now's the time to vote. And again, it will be open for a minute, just to give everyone a chance.
I'm going to end that poll. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you very much. And Kate, are you there? Do you want to? It's your turn. Is Kate with us?
Hi there. Yeah, can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, we can.
Hi there. Yes, thanks, Helen. Sorry, I didn't realise that I needed to present anything, but
You've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm Kate Gilmartin. I've been involved in community energy for many years. I'm a founder member of Community Energy England. I'm also a founder member of Greater Manchester Community Renewables, and I'm also on the board of Rosendale Valley Energy. I've worked a lot over the years with community hydro groups and set up the Community Hydro Forum with Whitby Esk Energy and Debbie many years ago, and still support that now. I've more recently set up the forum for community scale low carbon heat, and I'm doing a lot around that at the moment with Rosendale Valley Energy. I'm based in the Northwest. Got a great network of community energy practitioners around the country, as we all do. It's a great space to work in, and hopefully I'll be able to bring my expertise and my day job expertise to the board. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, great. Right, now time for voting on Kate.
That was a very quick one. I'm going to also end that poll there. Thanks, Helen.
Smashing. And the next candidate is Ollie. And again, it's got a personal statement to read out in the first person, so I'll read out just as it is. So, I am pleased to be restanding as non-executive director of Community Energy England. I joined Community Energy England in 2017, and it is great to be part of the non-exec team supporting Emma Bridge and the Community Energy England team, who are going from strength to strength in keeping pace with the development of the sector. Based in Lewes, East Sussex, I am also Chief Executive of Community Energy South, a regional support organisation in the South East. We work closely with Community Energy England and many community energy groups and sector partners. The Community Energy Pathways programme that we deliver connects community energy sector with local authorities. I have previously been seconded to the Department for Energy and Climate Change BEIS, representing the community energy sector, and was directly involved in supporting regional energy strategies adopted by the LEPs and then formed part of the net zero hubs. Before Community Energy, I worked on national infrastructure programme, including with National Grid delivering best practice communications programmes, and worked with the Public Consultation Institute. I believe in the need to develop regional support networks for community energy and to build long-term partnerships to support community energy across communities, the third sector, government, local authorities, the UK's regional energy hubs, and our regional DNOs. So that's time for voting. And we'll announce the results after the next section, which is Emma will give you a looking ahead view for the organisation. But thank you very much, everybody.
Great, thank you. Can we move the slides on, please? Thanks. Thanks, Helen. And thank you as well from me to all the board members who've stood down this time, and welcome to the new ones, which new ones that we'll be announcing shortly, hopefully all of them. I'll be looking forward to working with them in the new roles. Next slide, please. So believe it or not, next year will be Community Energy England's 10th anniversary, and a lot has happened, both good and bad. Since we were established back then by the sector to act as community energy's unified voice. I remember those early days of me working my spare bedroom, trying to get my head around why FITs were getting removed, and other changes included why tax relief was promised to us and then taken away from us again before it had even been implemented, and those kind of heady early days thinking that things can't get worse than this, can they? And then, oh yes, they have. But we have had very good things as well. We've had many changes of government leadership. On the other depressing side, we have seen and are seeing exorbitant increases in energy and general living costs. But throughout all of this and much more, community energy has continued to respond, to innovate and to grow. Increasing numbers of people have been turning to community energy, not only as a practical and effective way of tackling climate change, but also because of all the additional benefits that community energy brings to the local area. You can see here on this slide just some of the changes from our first State of the Sector infographic on the left-hand side, which Quantum did for us, that just highlighted just some of the benefits of community energy. And then on the right-hand side, a snapshot of activity from our most recent State of the Sector published last year. So over those 6 years, we've grown from 30 megawatts of community energy generation to 331 megawatts. We've grown from 20 energy saving schemes providing annual energy savings totaling just over 170,000 to 123 organisations delivering savings totaling £3.35 million. And the breadth of activity has changed massively too. So we've had increasing number of organisations running multiple projects, different technologies such as solar and batteries, electric vehicles, generation and efficiency, and some really exciting innovation coming through around whole place solutions as well. And added to that, the energy system has increased in complexity too, with unfortunately market-driven principles competing really with ambitions to reach net zero. So we have come a long way, but not far enough. In 2020, we published our vision for an energy system that is democratic, decentralised and decarbonised, where people are at the heart of the transition. We announced, based on strong evidence from WPI economics, that support from government that was mainly never received. If we had have had that support, community energy would be generating over 5 gigawatts by 2030. And as mentioned, at last count, at the end of 2021, we were generating 331 megawatts. So we've got a long way to go. Since coming back just over 4 months ago from taking a year off for maternity leave, much of my focus, as you can probably tell, has been on reflecting on both the sector and CEE's, Community Energy England's progress, as well as looking ahead really to what more can be achieved. I've spoken to many of our members, my team, my board, key stakeholders like funders, as well as politicians and civil servants. And on the back of those discussions, and despite a severe lack of sleep, I do feel a renewed determination and enthusiasm for what we can achieve. Feedback on CEE has been incredibly positive, and I'm really proud of what my team has achieved with the support of our members, and particularly over the last year. We're consistently seen as high deliverers for a very small organisation, and we do remain the trusted voice for community energy in England. We're currently revisiting our mission and strategy to ensure that we continue to respond as effectively as possible to both the challenges and opportunities ahead, that we're meeting the needs of our members, and that we continue to help community energy grow in scale and impact in the best way that we can. We're also looking again at our vision for the sector based on the discussions we've been having. And one thing that keeps coming forward as a potential new ambition or vision is that every local authority area has access to community energy organisation or project. So really looking at, well, what would that mean in reality? Not just in terms of megawatts, but really in terms of the impact of people's lives, and how do we get there? What support, what ways do we need to grow? What skills do we need if we're going to get there? We've also been speaking particularly to members about whether they think we are focusing on the right activities. So if there's anything that we should stop doing, and if there are new roles that we should pick up. We haven't so far been told of anything that we should stop doing, but listed here are some potential new areas. So just to emphasise, these are just suggestions for members and not things that we're definitely taking on, as through all of this, we need to discuss with our board, further discussion with members, and to really check that we are the right ones to do this, and that we're not going to be duplicating or competing with what our members are doing on the ground. So some of the suggestions being put forward is more activity around regional and local authority lobbying and support for members. So that would obviously be in conjunction with bodies like Community Energy London and Community Energy South. Leveraging funding. So can we do more to help groups access very large pots of money that individually they might not be able to access on their own? Coordinating activity. So really digging in really to what that means at the moment. Training keeps coming up a lot, so developing career pathways through both formal and informal training. Now, despite the bit we did a little bit on that last year with energy efficiency, if we did do more on that, that would need to look at what is the purpose of CEE, and do we need to grow to do that, or is it another organisation that we work with to deliver that? Developing tools. So quite a few of our members have been asking around more skills around digital, back office tools and so on. But again, we know that there are some great members out there like Share Energy and others that are already doing this. So we'd only be really looking to where there might be some gaps to be plugged. Aggregating services. So that could mean a variety of things, but one area which we're already looking at, which might be of interest, is potentially developing a mutual product for insurance. So we're going to be doing a roundtable with members to discuss that in more detail shortly. And then also whether we should really be doing specific member services, because up to now we've really acted on behalf of the sector as a whole, but should we be more focused on member only type of services like other trade associations do? Next slide, please. Of course, we have a strong foundation to build upon, so we're also exploring ways to further increase the impact of our existing activities. So State of the Sector, you'll hopefully have seen the communications that we sent out about having a fallow year this year. So really just giving members a year off from the survey, looking at how we make the survey more streamlined. Can we develop a data portal? How do we more effectively gather data from organisations that collect it in very, very different ways, particularly co-ops versus community benefit societies versus community interest companies? The other thing we're also looking at is our website. We are all aware it's in need of a desperate refresh. There's some fantastic resources on there, but how can we share that better? How can we really use our website more effectively to communicate on behalf of the sector as a whole? That takes me on to communications and events. Events always come back as the key thing that members want from us, but also I feel like we could potentially do more around our communications. So really working with members on their sharing out their press releases, looking at how we communicate what we do as a sector. Member working groups and forums, Duncan's already talked about, looking at if there's more we could do around that. Sharing of learning and funding is always something that we're asked to do more on. Harnessing members and MPs, Duncan's mentioned about this. So we do a lot around policy and advocacy, but we can't know everything. We can't be experts in everything, and we can't necessarily respond to everything. So how can we work more effectively with our members to be able to do that? And how do we harness MPs, particularly in the run-up to the general election? Linked to the general election, we'll be working, we are working with all the energy trade associations, Cooperatives UK, Social Enterprise UK, and many other bodies to look at what our collective key policy asks should be. So specific to community energy, but much more broader as well. And on the back of that, you'll have seen the work that we've been doing with the Labour Party and their announcements to support community energy. So we'll be continuing to work to what does it mean for their £400 million a year funding, making sure that we are ready as a sector to grasp any opportunities that are coming up. And then, of course, trying to get a similar sort of level of support from the other political parties as well. And then finally, continuing to explore potential growth areas. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. So of course, we'll keep you informed of progress on this, and we are always keen to hear from you. So if I haven't had a chance to speak to you yet since I got back, please do get in touch. Please do let us have your thoughts, where you think we should focus, where we could do better. Yeah, please do let us know. In the meantime, we have a couple of events coming up. So our late summer conference is coming up